Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get Out of Rap. I finally got him, everyone. The FBI, they've got their man, the myth, the legend, Ray Biggs, Chief Operating Officer at Ventrica. And I have spoken to Ray for pretty much since I started the podcast about getting him. I finally got him. Welcome.
Welcome, Martin. And as you know, all good things come to those that wait, right? I'm just a bit disappointed. I didn't land like a centenary episode or, I'm just a standard episode. I kind of thought, I was worth a bit more, if I'm honest. I just thought I was worth a bit more. But hey, look, I'm really glad to be here. It has been long overdue, my friend.
There's nothing, I haven't said when I'm doing it. I could just keep this on a shelf, ready for number 200 or something. We're not that far away.
No, you can't be. I mean, it feels like you've had most of my team on this ahead of me as well, right? Which is slightly annoying because I was looking to take a whole load of credit for a whole load of stuff, but I can't because they've already done it, which is slightly awkward. But there we go.
But like you say, all good things come to those who wait. And for those that don't know you, this is going to be interesting for many, many people. But where you are now, and we'll get into that and the things that you're up to and your kind of outlook. But this journey into where you are now has not been a standard one, has it? It's fair to say.
No, and it's people talk about their kind of how they plan out and map out their careers, right? And some people do that, and I'm not critical of that, by the way. Horses for courses. It generally has been. I think the technical term is a career climbing frame, right? I've certainly not kind of gone that way. I've kind of spun around a bit. So yeah, look, I started way back on the phones, trying to avoid calls as well as the next person sat next to me. Then became a team manager, knowing how to avoid calls so I could catch the people that were avoiding calls. And then kind of moved around a bit. All very much kind of contact center customer service roles, obviously, but big operational roles, strategic roles, combinations of the two. Working within house operations, outsourced operations. I guess it's fair to say probably the last 15 years, 20, it seems weird, right, when I go 20 years. Because in here I'm still about 23, and I still think I can go out clubbing on a Friday and a Saturday and beers on a Sunday and turn up for work on Monday, right? If I go out for beers now, I need to book 2 days off to recover. Because anyway, that's a whole different story.
We are kindred spirits, and you know what? Some of my friends on my university WhatsApp group corrected me that I missed out an entire 10 years. So I went, what, is that really 20 years ago? They were like, no, it was 30 years ago we first went to university. I was like, oh my God.
It's shocking. It is absolutely petrifying. I've probably spent the last 20 years in retail, and was lucky enough to work some brilliant brands and really lucky to work with some brilliant people as well, both working for, and I've been even luckier to have some great people kind of supporting me in my journey. I didn't really have a master plan. I just kind of ended up here. But I think what sort of drove me was quietly ambitious, it's fair to say. And, like everybody, you do it for the hourly rate. But I've always had a real thing about enjoying what I do. And I kind of learned fairly early on in my career the horrors of sticking with something that you don't enjoy, right? And if you stay there too long, you're an idiot. So I've always kind of chased what I enjoy and challenges, and I kind of ended up here. I do still wake up at the moment and kind of go, how have I landed this job? How did I get here? That was never the plan. I used to work in McDonald's. I loved it. I had stars and did all that stuff. Not standard, but really proud of the career that I've built. Right, and I flunked at university. I flunked at my A levels, but with some hard graft, a bit of kind of fearlessness, I suppose, and some of the chances I've taken, and being able to take advantage of some brilliant support around me, you kind of do okay. I got no regrets, right? Kind of looking back. But yeah, so no, not a standard, certainly not a standard sort of linear approach at all. But focus on what you enjoy, and you're never going to go far wrong, right?
You know what, that kind of right from the word go, that sitting there, I can remember being on the phones and having pay plans or bonus plans given to us, and me turning to the guy next to me going, right, how are we going to earn the most but doing the least? And then when you become like a poacher turned gamekeeper.
Absolutely.
So
right.
Then when you're in the room and the people are devising bonus plans, I'm thinking, how would the previous version of me?
How would I have cheated the system? Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny, right? Because some of that stuff almost overbears a little bit your perspective on it. Because I'm absolutely with you in bonus schemes. Oh God, yeah. But I often find myself, I had an example recently, but I often find myself, you're looking at processes, right? A lot of what we do is the output of a process. And you go, this outcome's rubbish. Is it rubbish because of the way you've done it, or is it rubbish because of the way it's done? And they are slightly different. And suddenly you become acutely apparent that most processes in the world are geared around the 2% of ne'er-do-wells like you and I, Martin, right? And they're completely built and constructed to stop idiots like you and me, as opposed to focusing on the 98% of good people that will always choose to do great things and making it as easy as possible for them to do them. And I do sometimes kind of go, yeah, you need to flip that a little bit, but you learn loads, and it does sometimes feel a bit try. We've been really lucky in the current job. I've spent some time. We've had two new clients launching with us, so we've been doing some welcome meetings with probably about 180 new people that are coming into our business. And I always kind of go, listen, look, I started on the phones, and it feels a little bit trying to go, yeah, did you? No, I really did. But some of the stuff that you learn there, that you also forgot that you learn, and then something happens, you go, oh yeah. So we're doing some stuff about flexibility, flexible working, all that sort of stuff, right? So office-based home working, and talking about shift patterns. My favorite shift pattern was the first shift pattern I had as an agent, and it was 6 days on, 3 days off. I'm not even sure that was legal, but we did it. But honestly, it was great. But again, because what you're able to do is you're able to work it and go, right, so if I time my holidays around my 3 rest days, and I take 6 days, not 5, I get 3 rest days, 6 days off, then another 3 rest days. I can actually fluke 2 weeks off for the price of 1. This is brilliant. But you remember, but then what that does is it then pushes you back into the mindset of what's important. And when you're younger and foolish, I was foolish, not everybody is. Actually, that's the sort of stuff that's important, and you those experiences that you have are dynamite when you're sitting in some convoluted office drinking posh coffee, kidding yourself that you're somebody that you're not, right? And you need that wake up that goes, actually, should we do away with the arithmetic and the fancy spreadsheets? Actually, what people want is to be able to get the most out of the time away from work, and square into that, because that's absolutely okay for those people. Doesn't mean they don't like working, but what they want is the most they can get out of being away from work. So how do we support and enable that? So yeah, it's you learn that stuff just comes back and haunts you positively, I think, every now and again. It's great. By the way, doesn't mean if you haven't worked on the phones and you're a senior leader, you're not a good senior leader. Of course you are, but there is. I do think there's something unique about that.
We are a broad church in the industry, aren't we? So
we're the broadest, fattest, widest of churches is what we are, and we're proud of it, aren't we? We're proud of it.
Very. And you know what? I love the 12/8. Hold on, that's my dog. 1 second.
See, everyone, this really is live. This isn't even. I mean, I could say anything now. I've not got control of Martin's podcast. Is him? Oh, he's back.
Oh, look, the co-pilot. You could have gone crazy. I was saying I loved a 12A even before I didn't know the term work-life balance, but I loved a 12/8 shift just because, I could do what I wanted in the morning, come in, you were walking into a contact center that was buzzing, and then I always found the 5 till 8 just used to go like that because you were
Yeah,
making loads of contacts and
yeah,
just loved it. Loved it.
yeah, yeah. And it was dead social.
Yeah.
And I think, I made some great friends, and there was some great friends. There was always something to do,
Yeah.
right? And that, yes, that might have involved the pub and alcohol, but I remember where when I first started my career in the AA in Cheadle, just outside of Stockport. One of the things there was the building was kind of in a residentialist area, and there was an accountant's had a little unit almost like on the corner of our car park, and it was Take That. Back in the day, it was their accountant, and every now and again you'd see everybody gravitate to the windows of the office. You're like, what's going on? It's like because Jason Orange has pulled up to go see his accountant and all that sort of stuff. But we ended up, there was a group of us, we got into swimming. So again, if we're on the same shift pattern, you'd finish at 4, and then we literally jump on the bus, and then we go into Stockport, we go swimming, and the social component of it is huge. And I think it's fascinating now, actually, with home working and distributed working, how there is a social component that's lost. But then, by the way, this was in the days before an iPhone was invented.
Yeah.
And I was still printing off route maps on the AA on a dumb terminal, sticking them in an envelope and posting them out, right? So I think you can still create that social thing, with some of the brilliant social media tools that we've got, and certainly mine, some of the stuff that you're doing in that space is great. But yeah, the social component of it was a big deal. I think you had to have it to get through. I think there's always that camaraderie within a contact center environment, because a lot of what we do is demand failure. That's the reality. Often not of our making, but we're the ones to pick people up and fix it and make it better. And if you deal with that day in, day out, you get that camaraderie, gallows mentality, all that sort of stuff that comes with it. But it's one of the big pluses, right?
Yeah. And I think it's a really interesting subject, because I think you can't have been in our industry on the phones and stayed in it for any period of time without a big attraction. Also, one of the things that kept you there was I was never bored.
No.
Never. There was always, you could go into work with, no matter what was going on, sit down, and you would know that very soon you'd hear a funny story, or someone would make you cry with laughter with something that happened, something they said to a customer, a practical joke, or there was some of the theme days or whatever.
Yeah.
I can just remember every day thinking, like literally skipping into work, thinking it's going to be interesting no matter what, and I know some of that is rose tinted, but that, like you say, the buzz, the camaraderie, and you've got all of these things now, but an element of that was lost for a period.
I think it was, but something else came along as well, which is the kind of the point that you made, which is around the sort of work-life balance thing. And you're right, we didn't, I'm not even sure that was necessarily a phrase way back in the day, right? But with distributed work, what the pandemic did and all of those kind of things, I think, and I guess I choose to believe this because I have to, in amongst all of the tragedy and the horror of what went on, there has to be something good that comes out of it. And I do genuinely believe that a bit of a reset button was hit. And I think it's interesting to wax lyrical about how long did the reset button stay suppressed for, but there's a bit of a reset button around what's important to you and what you value most and what you took for granted. And suddenly, when in an environment where you haven't got that camaraderie at work, you know, actually, what is the value that you place on that? You know, similarly with kind of actually not taking your work home with you, trying to spend more time with your family and all those kind of things. And I don't think it is an either or. I think it's that thing where if you've got to do a behavioural change, you've got to swing really far left, and then you pull it back in. And I think the pandemic was a little bit like that for everyone, and therefore, I think we did. You know, as a result of that, we lost that work dynamic. But then, in some respects, do you know what? I think it actually got stronger. I've kind of I've said this before to somebody. I think there are work relationships that were forged during the pandemic. The teams that formed and navigated through the pandemic, there are some really rich, deep connections there that will last forever, because it was, you know, in certain, you know, depending on where you worked and what else was going on, you were literally going through some real horrors, either very personally affected, or you were having to support, you know, teams of people that were going through all of that. And I don't think we probably quite recognized that yet. So you kind of go, we maybe lost a little bit of the banter, possibly. It kind of got replaced with, I think, probably fewer but stronger relationships. And I think now we're kind of sloshing around trying to figure out what the new normal is.
There's a lot to be said, and it's often overlooked, for a key component of esprit de corps is shared experiences. And what more powerful shared experience was there than the pandemic? You know, when it was living through seismic events we'd never been through before, and you're forming as a team at the same time, is massive. Now, our broad church, the broadest of churches, I know you to be someone who is a very creative person, and in a world that is often perceived as and you know, these are true, right? We're target driven, process driven, continuous improvement, lots of measures and numbers. Someone that is a creative, though, can still thrive in that world. How is your experience as a creative person? And I imagine there's creative people that could be listening very early in their career thinking, well, I can't be a chief operating officer because I am too creative, and everything that people associate with that.
Yeah, brilliant question. And kind of interestingly, in the early part of my career, if I looked up at chief operating officers, ops directors, they're all finance people, right? They're all bean counters. You know, they're all from the dark side. Cue lots of moaning to me now on LinkedIn for being disparaging about finance people. But they actually were. But so much of what we do is actually about creativity. You've got to have a balance, right? Of course you have. But it's I draw the parallel, right? I never quite know what I'm walking into now on a day by day, hourly basis. I've seen 3 messages pop up whilst I've been talking to you, and I'm thinking, oh geez, this is going to be a long Friday, right? I'm going to need to figure how am I going to sort those out? But that was kind of the same when I was 25 working on the phones for the AA, and somebody's ringing up to say I'm lost or my car's broken down or whatever, right? There is absolutely a need and an absolute requirement for creativity. It's about solutions, and it's and you know, there is a balance to be had between, you know, analysis, planning, detail, but you also need some pretty big thinkers, and some real creative sorts that can, you know, shape and build ideas. And you know, I'm really lucky in this role and previous roles that I've been able to do that, and I'm clearly biased, but I would say, you know, you're brilliant operators out there, all will have a creative side. they will all have a creative side for sure, because you can't get through it. There is so much unknown. You know, if it's pure manufacturing and it's pure process and it's just going from A to B, you don't need creativity there, right? Well, because we're a human business, and AI, everything else that's going on out there, bring the robots. We are still predominantly, we are people businesses. You know, we use people to deliver services for other people. You got to be creative in an environment where you've got two lots of people, because we're all humans and we're all different, and we don't behave in a way that you would expect us to. Always, not always. So yeah, absolutely. And I think creativity is, I think people sometimes think creativity has got to be this great, big, grand thing. It's just creative problem solving. Everybody's doing it day in, day out, right? It's not that big a thing. You know, I've got an arts background, trained as an actor, classically trained, all that sort of stuff. The early part of my career trying to get a job, when I was trying to get a job in call centres, was people saying, yeah, but you've got a degree in acting. You could just be lying to us. I'm like, it's a job in a call centre, right? Come on, do me a favour. But yeah, so I you know, anyone who's out there who is creative and is kind of thinking this environment is very numbers based and it's very structured and very process driven, that's exactly why you need some creativity in there, because that's what makes the difference for me.
Do you still tread the boards?
Good God, no. I was arguably not very good. It's why I'm doing this for a living, right? So no, I mean, some would say I'm bloody acting every day. Sometimes it feels like it. Wing it, swing it. So no, I mean, it was. Do you know what? It was a brilliant way to get a degree doing something that I loved. It wasn't an enjoying career, but it gave me a unique set of skills. But it kind of did, in terms of confidence and hopefully articulate, and you know, I'm pretty comfortable standing up in front of people and stuff like that. So yeah, it was great, but no, not for me. I may or may not go back to it. I wasn't very good. That was the reality. I just wasn't very good. Sometimes you just got to square into that and go, move on, son. It's not your time.
Yeah. And actually, so the career climbing frame, great phrase. What were the parts where you now look back and think, well, I aced that part, but actually the monkey bars are the monkey bars are really tough. I could have done with a hand there. And how does that influence you now? So when you're looking back and you're thinking, this part of my career just was seamless, I kind of nailed it. Or has it always been just kind of?
It's kind of weird, isn't it? Because you do, when you look back, there are rose tinted glasses. What I'm doing hastily in my head now is thinking, who can I name and shame, and what are the organisations I can? So I'm thinking I might need to be a bit creative here, because I don't want to lose my hands. I'll take a politician's position, if you don't mind, Martin. And what I'll talk to you about is I'll answer a slightly different question, but I'll hopefully give you a sense. You know, there are a couple of things that I learned fairly early on in my career. I started chasing titles and company cars and those kind of things, and ended up working for an organisation that was just dreadful. It gave me all of that, but completely nothing else. Culturally, the wrong organisation. I will do one name check. So I used to work for Anne-Marie Stagg. She gave me my first ever promotion as a team manager. Boy, oh boy, did she take a chance on me. Everyone else was like, are you for real? I'm like, are you for real? She's like, I think it'll be okay. What could go wrong? She generally gave me my first break. She showed me, was the first example of leadership, being prepared to take a chance. And as a result, through my career, I've made sure that I've done that. I'll come back to that in a second. But I remember meeting her for a bite to eat and telling her I've just got this great big new fancy job. And she was like, what are you going there for? Oh, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I can change the world. It'll all be fine. And 6 months later, it was the most horrific experience of my life ever. So I kind of learned something, but equally, when you make those mistakes, and again, it sounds a bit new, but what you learn is invaluable. I mean, I learned so much about how not to do things, and the impacts of a toxic culture, because I saw it firsthand. So that was one lesson. I stayed too long in one of my roles. Probably 2 or 3 years too long, which is interesting. Why I kind of part of why I made the decision recently that I made to leave JL. But at the time, I couldn't see it. Looking back now, I should have moved out of that organisation, and I was incredibly comfortable. You know, in terms of acing it, I was acing that job. I was there for about 9 years. I was acing that job for at least 8 of those years. Knew everyone, knew everything, had brilliant relationships, could do it standing on my head. I was the go-to. There was no way that business could have survived without me. Surprisingly, they managed to. Who knew that would happen, right?
Yeah.
But
Who saw that coming?
Yeah. I mean, what really? But I learned, you know, the difference. I'd got comfortable. I'd got complacent, and it's quite hard to recognise that. So that was a really interesting lesson. And then going back to the kind of Anne-Marie story where it started, one of the other things that I have learned from some of the brilliant leaders that I've worked for is so taking chances. And I've been dead lucky that, you know, over the years, every now and again, I mean, to be clear, not tens, but probably half a dozen, there'll be a message out of nowhere will appear in LinkedIn that says, I don't know whether you remember me, but you gave me this opportunity and I've now done this and this and this. And something to remind me, and I just wanted to say thanks very much. And you get that, and I'm like champion of the world right now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it can be the smallest thing. It's not, you know, I'm now a multimillionaire and I've got my own private island, but, you know, it's given them confidence to go on and do other things. And so that's kind of one of the things that I always take with me. But yeah, there's quite a bit about knowing yourself. And I don't think I really knew myself, probably until the pandemic, right? Really. I mean, obviously I knew my name and I knew where I lived. That was quite helpful for getting around and about. But, you know, I think people that are able to understand themselves, and I actually think, and I'm going to sound really, really old, I actually think younger people, who are younger people? I actually think, you know, I look at my children who are now grown men, they're much more self-aware, much more self-assured in themselves. I'm self-assured, I'm a confident guy. They're very self-assured in themselves. They know who they are. They know what they want and all those kind of things. I don't think I did, not for way too long, really. And I think that's quite an important thing, is to just work out what you like and what you don't like, and stick to it. Because if you don't like it, I'll give you a clue. You don't like it. So don't pretend, because you don't like it. So don't gravitate to it. Focus on the stuff that you enjoy.
Well, you've just described the first part of being an emotionally intelligent leader, which is being self-aware, and that kind of, the sooner you can start on that journey to be self-aware, the better. But you also touched upon the importance of having, in your case, a legend of our industry, but for anyone, it can just be one person that believes in you. Because you're always going to have people that are going to give you advice. You're going to have lots of people giving you advice, when actually sometimes what you need is just belief. You need someone that believes in you and says, I'm going to give you a chance.
Yeah.
And you're going to have freedom to excel, but also fail and all of those things. And let's start that journey for you. Now, as you've progressed, though, and the responsibilities that you hold increase, and you have to develop all of these other considerations, you have to bring in the bean counters to the church. Has that kind of, and this self-awareness thing as well, has that meant that you've had to dial down some parts of the risk taking, or, you know, how does How do you get that balance? How do you...
Yeah. My immediate reaction to that is I'd probably take more risks now than I used to.
Good.
And arguably they're more dangerous because there's more at risk. But the actual risk component is still between two individuals that say, I've got your back, give it a go. And what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, I mean, okay, there's some red rules, there's health and safety, there's stuff like that, right? But in terms of people and opportunities, I'm probably more up for it now than I've ever been. And one of the things that I kind of try to encourage is try it, and if you don't like it, walk away from it, and it's absolutely okay. That is not a failure. There's an individual previously who went off to do a secondment in a part of a business that they really thought they'd like, and they kind of went, oh, do you know what, I'm not actually sure this is for me. But I mean, they didn't say it, my interpretation, but I could almost sense there was a bit of a, I feel like I'm a bit of a failure. It's like, no, that's why you did it. You've been there, you've tried it, you don't like it, that's fine. Come back, it's cool.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't know, you don't try. So I actually think I'm more, I don't know what the opposite of risk averse is. I can't work it out in my head, but I'm less risk averse, but probably more calculated in that so much of this is about clear contracting. It's about the setting of expectations. It's about describing what good looks like, and it's about collaboration. So, you know, yeah, here's an opportunity. I think you'd be great for it. What do you think about, what value do you think you could bring? What do you think your gaps are? It's the transparency of it. And I think what I have learned, and probably the reason why I would say I take more of those chances now, is because I'm smarter at working out, okay, we know there's some gaps, so what's the contingency around the gaps? So if you're going to go into something and you excel at this bit, but you're not great, how do we put those security mechanics in place to make sure that you're not going to be exposed and all that sort of stuff? 99.9% of the time, people will never let you down. Everybody always focuses on the 0.001% that they've been let down. And for those 0.001% of people that do let you down, I'd say at least 50% of those is not in their control. And actually you as an individual could have done more to make them more successful, right? So people do good things. Trust people to do good things. And I think, I know I keep harking back to the pandemic, but I think that was one of the things that everybody suddenly remembered in the pandemic, because everybody needs to move so quickly, and you have to empower people to go and do good stuff and just trust that they do good stuff, because the whole world was changing around you and all those kind of things. Wow, look what happened. Everybody went and did good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're now kind of out the pandemic. I wonder how many of those people that were doing great stuff have now been reined back in, because those old behaviors and old beliefs start to creep back in, and you don't trust and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think I'm probably more risky now than I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I think.
And that's reassuring, actually. And it's lovely to hear that kind of, it's interesting, that kind of conversation around the reversion back to command and control based on productivity kind of paranoia, where, do you know what, the stats showed, if you trust people and they're trained and supported, guess what, they're going to deliver for you. Okay, you don't need to be right next to them. What are you doing now? What are you doing? You don't need to micromanage them.
We're engineered as a species to please, right? Generally speaking, there are always exceptions, but people want to do a good job. You know, generally speaking, people want to do a good job. So if you equip them and let them, they will. You know, and we were joking, and you know, we were, you know, you and I and a whole lot of other people here, you know, we've all found ways to shortcut, right? We've always found ways to maximize. I think in another language we call that continuous improvement, right? We were just subversive with
Yeah.
it. But that is what it is. We did all those things, but we still worked really hard, and we still cared about what we did. So I think, yeah, there's something really interesting around that whole sort of trust dynamic and how that's kind of playing out now versus 2 years ago versus 5 years ago. I think it's going to be a really interesting one to watch.
And you said something there earlier as well that I think is a massive lesson for anyone that's responsible for not just leading people, but interacting with other teams, is a concept of contracting and an exchange of expectations, which is I will lead and you can expect this of me and this behavior and this support and this communication. Here's what I expect from you, so that there's no, it came quite late to me, this concept of contracting, and it was someone else pointing out to me, you seem to have a different contract with everyone else, and you're frustrated about their behaviors based on something you've never shared with them.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm doing this and I'm turning up and showing this and doing this. Why isn't it being reciprocated? Well, guess what? They don't know.
Yeah.
But you've never verbalized it.
Yeah.
You've
They're playing a different game.
Yeah.
They're playing a different. Why are you picking the ball up? Oh, right. I didn't realize it was football. I thought we were. It is one of those. I think the other thing, slight build on that, is, and I think this is something that I've learned recently. So over the last kind of 5 or 6 years, really, is it's one of those phrases people go, you're an idiot, Ray, but it's okay not to know, right? It's okay to say, do you know what, I haven't got all the answers. Or it's okay to say, listen, we're winging this a bit. Here's the bits that we're not winging. Here's the bits that we are. And I'll be dead open with you. I don't quite know how that's going to play through. So you're just going to have to work with me on it, and we'll work our way through it. The whole kind of, get it 80% right and work out the final 20 is a big thing for me. Because I think otherwise you spend so much time trying to get to 100%, you don't do anything because it's taking you that long to get there. So that honesty, transparency, and it's respectfulness, actually, to kind of go, I actually don't know the answer. I'm not going to pretend I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know how we're going to work that bit out. But what we need to do is get moving, and then we'll swing back by it. And here's how we're going to swing back by it. It's that sort of stuff, which, I remember back in the day, leaders had to have all the answers. They couldn't not have an answer, because that meant they were a bad leader. And you kind of, you look back now and you kind of go, oh dear, that wasn't great.
Yeah. Well, luckily we've evolved since then, haven't we?
Yeah. So some of us have.
Yeah. Now let's bring this up to date then. How long have you been at Ventrica now?
So do you know what I'm week 5. Week 5, I know where the coffee is, and I've found out where the toilets are. And I already have a favorite. Yeah, I have a favorite cubicle. All is good in the world. Yes.
Favorite trap. You've got to have a favorite trap.
You've got a favorite trap. That was it for me. People have said, are you okay? I haven't got a favorite yet, but I'm working on it. I think by halfway through week 2, it was established, all was good.
So you're still in the throes, really, of, is it still discovery? Why are we doing this?
Well, to be honest, so yeah, of course, it's a bit of that. It's so fast paced, and I knew this, so there was no surprises here. It was literally straight in, sleeves up. It was a long old wait for me to get in there. I think people thought I'd changed my mind. So wasn't he going to Ventrica? Why is he still at John Lewis? Oh, wonder what's happened there. Oh, he has got to Ventrica. There was a bit of that going on. So it was a long wait, and subsequently the team there was having to cover so much ground, and it's not just me, by the way. There's another couple of appointments that have all landed broadly about the same time. So I'm having to kind of dual swim, really. So yeah, absolutely discovery, but I'm also kind of bonnet up, fixing, trying to fix some stuff. Always a dangerous thing when you don't quite know everything, because you think that pipe goes in there, and then the next thing you know, you've got an explosion. You're like, oh shit, how did that happen?
Who did that?
There you go. First swear word. Where are we? 39 minutes in, first swear word. Well done, Ray.
You've done really well.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, you've seen nothing yet.
You've broken the seal now.
I mean, it could go anywhere. So yeah, it's just so fast paced, and that kind of environment, and anybody who's listening who's in a similar environment, will know it's just absolutely mental, the speed and pace and reaction, because again, we've got brilliant clients, but we'll suddenly decide they want to do something different. We're chasing new opportunities. We're trying to fix stuff that really isn't as good as it should be and needs to be better. So kind of doing all of that, but also trying to, it's a bit of a, how can I bring the things that I've learned across the other organizations that I've worked, how can I pick the best bits of my 25-year career and bring them all in to maximum effect? And that goes way back to, like I said earlier on, the shift conversation. I personally quite like 6 on 3 off, and that was for the, I'm having conversations like that, and it's the breadth. So I'll go from a conversation on the receptionist room sick, have we got anybody that could go on to reception and look after that, to what's our 3-year financial appraisal of the business, and what's our incremental revenue streams going to look like, and you just literally yo-yoing like that. But what
you
what
love that though, don't you? That's kind of addictive. Yeah,
of course it is. It's an adrenaline junkie thing, and it is genuinely horses for courses. You either love it or it kills you instantly. And I love it, and it's a great team, and that business has got such talent, and I think that's the thing that's getting me really excited. It's what will frustrate me is the speed at pace at which we can move. What excites me is there's so much potential. There's so much potential in there, and I'm going to have to play a canny game to make sure that that my route through this is by maximising that talent, that potential. But I keep getting sidetracked with this strategic nonsense over here. So I've got to kind of ping pong between the two. But it's an absolute I'm having to learn stuff. I'm also having to relearn stuff. So my career started in outsourcing way back when I used to work with Vertex. So I've been out the game probably 30 years. Some bits haven't changed that much. Some absolutely has. So I'm having to relearn, learn, and then also kind of draw down from my life, from my pre-prepared great things to do, and deliver those in. So it's great. I'm actually shattered. So at the end of the week now, I'm absolutely good for nothing, because you're just having to put such a shift in, but that's okay. And I will. I'm warming up muscles that I haven't used for a while, which is good. And once they're warmed up, then that'll be great. But yeah, I'm a very, very lucky boy. People say you're better born lucky than rich. I'd always take rich, if I'm honest. But without rich, I'll take lucky. I just feel incredibly lucky and privileged, really, to be where I am doing what I do. It's that thing where it's like you described. When you work in the centres, you got a bit of a hop and a skip. This is exactly what I'm like now. And that isn't to say I didn't have it before, but this is quite energized.
And listeners, I can confirm we are recording this at the end of the week. So
yeah. So I mean, this is literally. I think I'm dealing with who's signed off the invoice for next week's toilet paper. And then I think I've got a strategic meeting on European Hub and availability of Swahili or something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Something like that is what it's probably going to be.
Now, with either whichever hat on you wish, so it can be as your position at Ventrica, or just you and knowledge of the industry and things like that. There's networking events, there's great research that comes out, and it feels like, from an industry point of view, whilst this happens all the time, I guess, now it seems that it's been turned up, that we're in a period of great change, great technological advances. What does it mean for us as an industry? Lots of questioning, lots of sharing of best practice. But when you look across our industry, what are your thoughts?
I have a number which won't surprise you. I'm really proud of our industry, and I think it's ludicrously undervalued, just insanely undervalued. And maybe it's people like me that need to take some accountability for that. But we'll have all been privy to conversations on the criticality of customer experience to a particular brand or a particular industry. And yet we invariably end up being the lowest paid, not me personally, but, as an industry, contact center employees are generally kind of the lower end of the food chain in terms of salary and your remuneration, right? So just square that off for me. This is the most valuable thing to your business. This thing that is delivered to your customers that makes you millions and billions, it's really important. You will rave about it any opportunity, but you're really happy to massively commoditize and try and find a way of doing it as cheaply as possible. That just infuriates me. I do see a bit of change in that, actually, and as the newest member of the outsource estate, I do think, a lot of the good outsourcers out there are really trying to shift that dial a little bit, and the race to the bottom and all those kind of things are not nowhere near as popular as they used to be, and really trying to talk, educate, be eloquent around service proposition and value. And certainly, example of one within Vertex, that's the wrong brand. They're no longer here. Ignore that. Can we delete that, Martin?
Yes, of course.
Certainly,
No.
certainly pick another outsourcer. But certainly in terms of what Ventrica are doing, that's absolutely what we're trying to do. So I'm disappointed, irritated by that. What then comes along with that is the lack of recognition for the skill of what we do. So I absolutely believe customer service is art and science. There's some science in there, but there's some art in there as well. And what our call center teams, contact center teams is brilliant communicators. And that just isn't a skill that's recognized, rewarded, applauded. Now, equally, again, we need to hold the mirror up and go, okay, hands up anyone who brings somebody into their business. They'll put them through some training. I guarantee you the soft skills training will be a couple of days. Their technical system training will be 3 or 4 weeks, and they never ever touch their soft skills again during the tenure of their career. Right? And we've all worked in businesses like that. So we're not helping ourselves by not treating seriously that skill set and that capability. And it's like any skill, you've got to keep training it. We get the concept of coaching. I think our industry is brilliant at that. I think we really do get that concept. But I think we massively undervalue the skills. I've used this before, name drop number 2. Although Martin Hill Wilson says he can't remember this conversation, but I assure you we categorically had it when we were drinking wine somewhere, right? And we said, we know we've made it when someone's in a nightclub. Do they have nightclubs anymore? Is that still a thing? I've no idea. Maybe it's a coffee shop. To be honest, the environment is irrelevant. But somebody is in an environment and is chatting up another individual, and that individual says, "Where do you work?" And they go, "I work in a call center." And that's something to be proud of, and it's something that's great, and it's something that means something. one of the incredible things when you get into offshoring, and for anyone that's lucky enough to spend time in those offshore locations, what is immediately apparent is the kudos associated with working in a call center in those environments. It's like they almost jump a class.
Yeah,
almost.
they're aspirational.
A social class.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And I'd love it. I'd love it if we beat them. I'd love it. Kevin Keegan, where's he now?
Yeah, that's a cracker.
Has he still got that perm? I'd absolutely love it if, before I bugger off, second swear word, we do start to see material shift. And I think you look at, I think there's some glimpses. So automation, all the easy stuff's gone. It's no longer just churning of process. The activity that's left is going to be more complex. We need real engagement. We're going to need more empowered individuals that can handle the high level of complexity, which must lead to a better equipped and a better skilled workforce. And therefore, maybe that's what opens the door to, frontline customer facing colleagues getting the respect that they deserve. But there's some great stuff. I think what we're seeing, and kind of parochially, just because of some of the space that I've been in, how our industry is really trying to embrace D&I and really bring that to the, and I think that comes back to that kind of camaraderie, culture, all in it together as a team and all those kind of things. I think we're well positioned to do that. I think the professionalization of the industry versus where we were way back when has come on leaps and bounds. I still don't think we are getting the bang for our buck out of technology, and we're not using it effectively. And that's not because the tech isn't good enough. I think it's because we're probably not good enough at using it and really stretching it. I think there's some incredible leaders in our business. I get to do a number of events in industry and out of industry. I think we've got some of the best in our industry, and I think part of that is because we're a people business, dealing with people and dealing with customers all of the time, and I think that keeps it really real, as opposed to somebody who isn't exposed to big people leadership or big customer challenges and those kind of things. And I think I'm trying to think of the right words to describe this. I think I've seen more change in our industry over the last 5 years than I saw in the previous 15. Now, whether part of that is because we saw massive strides in terms of digitization and all of that, and with digitization is an output and a requirement for customer service support and all those kind of things, whether it's lined up to that or whether, and I may choose to believe this, there is now a maturity in our industry as, and I'm not taking claim for it, by the way, but as idiots like me that were on the phones 35 years ago that have now moved through and have spent lifelong careers in the industry are actually now able to add significantly more value than somebody who perhaps hasn't. And again, I'm generally not being disparaging about that at all. That's not my point. But, we've now had people in our industry that have been in it for 30 years. And yeah, I know telephone exchanges in BT, 1969 and all that sort of stuff. But call centers as we know them now really kind of started kind of early to mid 80s, right? So there, I'm sure somebody who could be bothered, let me know someone who did the research, could actually look at what we've now got in our industry is a much richer leadership experience of those environments, and that has to deliver greater maturity and better experiences, hasn't it? Surely to God.
Oh, 100%. And so much of what you said there makes me think about that last 5 years absolutely is accelerated, but we've always been good as an industry. We know it ourselves internally. It's just that we've never been very good at letting everyone else know, so that those interactions, I can remember like you working as an outsourcer, and people used to say they worked for the brand rather than I work in a call center. So
Yeah.
people go, "Oh, you work for a bank? Yeah, yeah. What do you do for them? Huh?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
work in an industrial estate on the phones."
Yeah.
When in fact the skills and everything that we know and the people that are listening to this know and see every single day isn't reflected in the wider world in terms of the first thoughts that people have when they think of contact center call centers
No.
aren't great leadership, great customer service, a multitude of different varying skill sets across everything you can and imagine, from training to technology,
Yeah.
from HR to finance. And they do amazing things for their community, do amazing things for inclusion, diversity, and equality. None of those things come to mind. It comes to the same tired tropes that are kind of always there. But I do think, again, that has been changing as well, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think there's some of the other stuff that's going on, right? So everybody's got the joke now around process and systems and technology, and actually, invariably, the 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 individual in the call center is picking up the pieces from poor process and poor tech, and is last man standing, and is on an absolute harding to nothing.
Mm.
And I think it's great to see how both technology and businesses are investing in process, but also, again, people have got the joke around, if you want some of the answers to your broken processes, can't talk to your call center. You can go as much customer research as you like, crack on, fill your boots, but you're categorically wasting your time, because these guys here can tell you exactly what's broken. And I think that's still a huge miss in organizations that aren't able to capture and leverage that. And that's the challenge. So it's big look. How do you get 1,000 agent opinions into some kind of Tableau database that you can then surface and share, right? That's the bit that's missing. But there's ideation platforms, all kinds of things like that now that are out there. Certainly at JL, before I left, there was a team in there that were doing some brilliant stuff around that, which I think was really, really innovative. So that, but that again, all points back down to the value and the contribution that our industry can provide, should be providing, and should be expected to provide. We're not a passenger. We've got a huge contribution to make. We're not just the thing over there. And I think in some businesses they still are the thing over there. It's great to see in some businesses they're absolutely square and center.
And failing that, they can just go and find maybe a couple of rascals like us and just say, come on, how'd you break this? Well, honestly, let me tell you.
Yeah. I was the best one used to be being able to circumvent IBRs as well. Was it #9 star or something on a BT Horizon IBR would get you straight through to an agent, no matter who you were calling. If I just said that loud publicly, I don't think it works anymore. But yeah, you're right. Everybody needs a couple of rascals, Martin. Rascals have the answer.
Yes, they do. Maybe that can be the name of the next episode, and it won't be maybe another 4 years before I get you for a second one. Now that you've broken the seal, just do a running theme of them.
Yeah, we could. Yeah. We should have an offshoot. Rascals.
Yeah.
Rascals. I'd imagine there's already a podcast called Rascals, I would have thought. Anyway, who knows? But Rascals, yeah, we should do that.
So you're telling me that people will hit their sales conversion and then try and avoid work? Yep.
Yeah. And more than that, let me show you how they do it.
It sounds like you've got experience of this. I do.
Yeah. First hand. I got a £25 Marks and Spencer's voucher for the trouble. Let me tell you, it paid for my lunch for a week.
Well, I'm now going to let you leave and deal with your myriad of big stuff, little stuff, everything in between that's kept you buzzing all this time. And Ray, thanks so much for coming on. It's been, I've loved it.
No, Andrew Martin, it was a long time coming, but absolute pleasure. And listen, big kudos to you. I think you're doing some super stuff out there for our industry, and I think the TR community stuff is really quite special. So look, best of luck with that, and keep fighting the good fight. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that.